I was born 3 days before the winter solstice, the bane of my mother's body from the first gasp. Each year she spun the same story of how during the largest blizzard Indiana had seen in decades, I decided to greet the world. My mother made it clear that they drove in dangerous, icy conditions just so I could be born 2 days later. She would begin the tale with 36 hours of labor, the most pain I have ever experienced, and we had to drag you out with forceps. I'm just so glad you were a quiet baby. Then the rest of the family would laugh because clearly I was the most difficult child. My maternal birthright denied, I immersed myself in stories of women, heroes, and magic. I inserted myself into the roles of cherished daughter, vengeful witch. A spell was set in motion in my mind. Their stories became my stories, woven into the fabric of my being. I breathed the fire of revolution in my lungs like Boudica, escaped to the vast unknown with Grace O'Malley, and tended the wild places with the witch. On the page, I discovered my budding sovereignty. With sovereignty came a decree of separation. No longer willing to play the whipping girl or banished heir, my blood sang with power. I closed the door on the shadows haunting my life and opened one to myself. With each heartbeat, the old curses fell away, and the world trembled with soft acknowledgement. And from that day, I became the Hag Under the Wood. Welcome back to the Shadow Root. I'm Caitlin, known to some as Hag Under the Wood. Listen, life has been like the Ohio River in spring. It's high, it's fast, it's carrying a lot of debris. I had a whole episode researching the Devonian limestone in the Ohio River Valley this week, but the truth is, I don't have enough brain spoons to finish the deep dive research. So we're pivoting. This Thursday's episode is just us. No lectures, no formal history, just loose, messy, honest look at the human behind the ink and the dirt under my fingernails. I've gathered your questions from Substack, and we're going to walk through the root, the leaf, the heart, and the star of who I am and what I do. Full disclosure, I do have a brand new baby puppy dog. Her name is Enid. She is an Anatolian shepherd, and she is all energy. You know how they say, those videos of the first child, how sweet the first child is, it makes you want a second one, and how that applies to dogs sometimes? Yeah, that's us. That happened to us. Enid is lovely. She's amazing. Super snuggly. Can't get enough of her. But my goodness, the energy is just unmanageable. So the best thing for all of us is as soon as I get home after school, we spend a couple of hours in the backyard trying to work some wormies out. So that's what I'm doing now. Sitting in my green hammock, watching the puppies play, talking to you guys. And I'm really kind of excited to get into these questions today. You all really made me think. All right. We're going to start with the root. This is where we'll spend most of the time because it is the foundation of what I do. The first question: how do you decide which plants earn a permanent spot in the apothecary garden versus those that are just passing through? Honestly, it's really based on vibes. If a plant can handle the heavy Indiana clay and my tendency to forget to water, they earn a permanent spot. I prefer to work with perennial plants and want to give the garden that can tend to itself with limited human interaction. For me, this means choosing native or naturalized plant varieties that grow well in Zone 6, or recently I've noticed Zone 7 plants grow well here too. As for my annuals, I prefer herbs like calendula, because I can literally throw the seeds in the ground in May and have a nice crop with minimal effort. I am a special education teacher during the school year, and I don't always have time to come home and do all the things that I would like to do in my rapidly expanding garden. So I need my garden beds to be basically able to take care of themselves. And I choose plant varieties and I do my planting in a way that, for the most part, helps with that. What was the very first plant you remember ever feeling a friendship with as a child? Definitely honeysuckle. It's the first plant I remember eating. It's, we had a row or a line of honeysuckle on our in my childhood home on the fence row in the backyard before it was torn out was all honeysuckle. And I remember sitting there as a child enjoying the smell. It smelled so, so good, so sweet. And then pulling those little stingers out to get one drop of nectar. I mean, that was just absolute magic. And it was probably the first time that I realized that nature actually had a gift for me if I was patient. When moving a plant from the habitat into the apothecary, what is your literal process? How do you ensure technical accuracy from harvest to labeling? This varies based on what I'm doing, but for the most part, I operate as a folk herbalist, so many of the FDA GMP inspection practices do not apply to me. That being said, I do follow Indiana's home-based vendor laws, meaning my process doesn't follow that industrial compliance, but it's more of like diligence to make sure that everything is safe and I am creating products that are going to work for people and not make anybody sick, because that's the opposite of what I'm trying to do. Indiana law does still require a specific technical flow, and it looks kind of like this. So when I go out to harvest a plant or forage for a plant, I keep a harvest log for every batch, which includes the date, the specific location, and weather conditions in which I harvested the plant that day. If I'm not able to follow the astrological signs, I do try to do that. I'm not great at it. I will harvest by the weather or by intuition. So if a plant kind of looks like it's ready to be harvested, it'll give me like a little wiggle, like, hey, I'm ready. And then I go out and I will harvest it. Does not always follow the moon signs. It's mostly an intuitive practice. I also make sure that I know exactly what plant I'm harvesting, and this is especially important when talking about wild crafting plants. When I first started out, I absolutely misidentified poke as elderberry and then made a syrup that I then gave to everyone in my family. We were fine, thankfully, but after learning the potent power of poke, I'm really glad that the side effects that we had weren't worse. But it was the first introduction I had into really understanding the importance of proper identification. So once I get my herbs, I've harvested them, I know what I have, I'm going to then go and clean them and prepare them for dehydration. As a home vendor, I am restricted to non-potentially hazardous foods, which means a lot of my plants get dehydrated first to be made into salves and that sort of things. And for this, I just have to ensure that my dehydration stations and areas are safe and free of pets and household contaminants as per sanitary procedures. Right now, I have a dedicated drying space in my basement, but I would really like to, it's part of my plan within the next year, to renovate one of our outbuildings and use that as a dedicated herb crafting space. All right, so my herbs are dried. I have them properly labeled. They are in the correct jars. All of my paperwork for this plant material has been created. Now it's time to process in the kitchen. Indiana laws require I follow basic food safety protocols such as proper hand washing, sanitized containers, no animals present during production. I also apply for a food safe handling certificate yearly that is required from the state of Indiana, but even if it wasn't, I probably would do it because it's good to have those certifications and that knowledge of how food safety progresses through the years and that sort of thing. I can do a lot in my apothecary without the feds poking their black suits into my space. There are items I genuinely will not sell because I do need to have them lab tested, and I choose to not do those things because it just is safer for me and it's safer for you. However, there are a lot of items that do not require temperature control for safety that I regularly produce in the apothecary, such as dried herbal blends, teas, tinctures, oxymel, salves, and elixirs. Anything that's shelf stable and does not have to be lab tested. I also make sure that every single one of my products have a batching number on them. This is probably the most important part of my herbal practice outside of the harvesting logs. I assign a lot number to every batch number I create for the shop and will directly connect back to the plants I harvest or purchase from a reputable source. The traceability allows me to track all of the data back to a very specific plant should anyone have a reaction to any of my products. As mentioned, I have a food handler certificate, and if I make any sort of borderline products, I do talk to the local health department for safety inspections and that sort of stuff. However, in recent years, I've just decided to not really work with any of those things. You can make syrups and those sorts of things pretty easy in your home kitchen, and there are a lot of recipes out there that you can use with fresh or dried ingredients for your own medicinal products that I could not sell to you. Now, the most important step for Indiana home-based vendors is labels. I make sure that my labels are 10-point type and include a disclaimer, my name, primary residence, the product identity, ingredients, net quantity, and date of processing. I still don't have labels I love right now, and this is probably the worst part of the apothecary practice because I want my labels to look as stunning as they are functional. I know that the herbs and the product inside the box are top notch, and I want my labels to look the same. I just haven't figured out my flow for that yet. Now, how can I sell? I can sell direct to consumer, and this is anywhere from farmers markets, roadside stands, or online. I can ship, but I just must maintain a record of shipping address for at least a year. And if I sell via a website, Indiana law requires I post a digital version of my product label on the site. This is a new one to me this year, and I'll be spending the summer ensuring my website has all the information it needs to be compliant. My favorite part of creating herbal products is honestly the ability to be creative. When I head out to the garden with my intention to craft a remedy, I first check in with the plants I have growing and see who is waving at me. From there, I build formulations based on what the plant tells me. I, of course, use my reference books and fact check my intuitive hits before any plant gets harvested. It's a time-consuming process, but the magic always takes a little time. Next question. That was a long one, and I really hope that gave you a good idea of my process. It's not always the same for everything that I do, but that's sort of the general guideline. So what is the most surprising thing you've ever found while wandering under the wood? Be it a plant, an artifact, or a moment in the wildlife? This one's a hard one. Because I feel like I'm always finding something surprising or magical in the woods. I think it's just my curious nature and the desire to play with the land spirits that guide me to most of my discoveries. I love going to the woods open-minded and just seeing what I can see. My favorite, though, might be a twisted branch I tripped over on a hike down to the Ohio River when I was very young. The branch came home with me that day and has been my companion for at least 20 years. In your work with the master gardeners, what is an example of an applied solution you've used for a common Indiana struggle like heavy clay soil? All right, so clay is notorious for being difficult to plant and work with. And for years, I've watched traditional farmers till the soil only to bring up clay that then dried in the hot sun. The fields look like cracked desert. I knew I didn't want to follow in that method, and so I researched other methods to bring to my farm. And we don't do anything on a large scale. Everything is small right now. And so I've had a lot of opportunities to practice what methods I prefer. I started researching permaculture, hugelkulture, and no-till practices that would feed the soil, cultivate a rich, fertile ground for my plants. Over the years, I've tried different methods to determine which method I prefer, and what I have settled on is this. I never till the soil. I don't like to till the soil. I try not to put anything in the soil if I can help it. That being said, I utilize cardboard, wood chips, hay, and grass clippings for weed control, and then use a lasagna layer of compost and brown matter and a loose hugelkulture method into a mound. Once the mound's built and I have things growing throughout the growing season, I will do the chop and drop method, which is where I prune, allowing plant matter to compost directly back into the soil. And of course, over the years, I allow our chickens to hang out on the beds, and I add food scraps like eggshells and coffee grounds into the soil. Over time, between the composting and gentle weed control, I have a well-fed soil where the worms and bugs have done all the heavy lifting for me below. My soil tests so well on environmental tests that I've taken, or soil tests that I've taken in the past through the Master Gardeners, that I actually am having the Master Gardeners out this year to look at my soil and talk more in depth about the practices that I do. Is there a weed that most people pull but you secretly admire for its tenacity or folklore? Definitely the dandelion. Always the dandelion. I will be on my soapbox forever about the dandelion. People spray it, but it's literally the grandmother in your garden. And it reminds me of my grandmother, Betty, who was tough as nails and twice as resilient. I will literally fight anyone who pulls a dandelion in my presence. True story. All right, so let's move on to the rustle of paper and the shadows of my characters. When researching lore for a character like Nettie, do you keep a physical commonplace book or a digital database? I am a digital physical hybrid. I have a Google Doc for all the hard facts on Nettie, but keep a corkboard with a map and red threads linking all the sensory and location details. I live in the Ohio River Valley, so I get to go out and actually explore the locations I'm writing about. I take a small notebook or record thoughts on my notes app on my phone and then put it into my Google Doc for later. This really helps me stay connected to my writing on the go, and definitely at school if I get some downtime to plug in a few words or a few ideas for a chapter. If you could choose to spend 24 hours in any historical archive in the world, which one would you choose? Definitely the Vatican Apostolic Archive. I want to know their secrets. I don't even care about the religion. I want to go in there and see what herbal remedies and magic that has been hidden over the years, because they're hiding stuff in there. How do you practically take a botanical fact, the clinical, and weave it into fiction, the nebulous, without it feeling like a lecture? Okay, so this is really fun. I never start with the clinical first, ever. The clinical is a stripped down version of the plant, and while it is incredibly helpful, it doesn't tell you the full story of who the plant is. I always start with observation and story. So, for example, we're just going to use mugwort for an example here. Mugwort is long regarded as the mother of herbs, and in medieval folklore, she was the primary protector of travelers and the staple of the 9 herbs charm, which is a huge deal in medieval folklore. If you watch how mugwort grows, you will see her queenly nature and how she claims ground. This growth pattern ties her to the thresholds, the thin places between wakefulness and sleep, or the physical and the spiritual. Across cultures, mugwort has been carried by travelers to ward against harm on the trails, woven into belts worn on midsummer to burn away bad luck for the coming year, and placed in a sachet under the pillow to invoke vivid, prophetic, or instructional dreams. And if we look at the folklore alone, we can draw conclusions about the medicinal power mugwort holds. The stories are often poetic interpretations of her chemical and physiological effects on the human body. For example, in folklore, mugwort cleanses the spirit, but clinically, she's a bitter tonic, which means the bitter compounds trigger the release of digestive enzymes and bile. Great for protection, because you're eliminating waste, and helpful for your digestive. The Romans practiced putting mugwort in the boots to prevent fatigue, and this may seem like pure superstition, but mugwort has mildly stimulant and nervine properties, meaning the oils being released through foot pressure on the long journeys actually improved traveler circulation and soothed their nervous system. Mugwort is also notably known for its sleep support and aid in astral projection. It has long been praised for its role as a nervine that can have a mild psychoactive effect on the brain. Though, through this relaxation, mugwort has been able to move stagnation, whether it is a suppressed menstrual cycle or suppressed subconscious thoughts. And so using the folklore, I always look for the folklore first and get that story in my mind, and then bridge that back to the clinical. This, I feel, helps me really understand the plant and also remember the facts that come along with it, because story helps us remember. It's the way that we view the world. If you could magically inherit one piece of furniture or tool from a 19th century apothecary, what would it be? Absolutely someone's apothecary chest. Something that has been hidden and never really looked at again after it was last closed. With those tiny hand-labeled drawers, I would just fill it with seeds and secrets. It would be awesome. Will we hear more about Yunka's earlier years, or is the history meant to remain a mystery? So I haven't actually talked about Yunka on the podcast yet, and I don't really know if I will. I think it'll be entirely up to her. However, I do feel like I need to tell you how she actually pronounces her name. And I don't know if I'll be able to do it justice every single time, but it sounded more when I heard it the first time like a breath in and then a breath out. So the young was a breath in and then ka was a breath out. It was like a young. Very cool name. She's fascinating. I really would love to learn more about the history of Yunka, as she's willing to tell it. And so I'll keep you guys updated as she gives me the information. If your creative work were turned into a film, which era of cinematography would it use? 1950s noir or the muted grain of 1970s folk horror? Probably 1970s folk horror. I love 1970s folk horror. Think Wicker Man meets a humid Indiana summer. Muted, earthy, and a little bit dangerous. All right, we're halfway through. Next stop, we're at the heart. This is the path, the way we walk through the world without catching fire. Here I'm going to talk about my 9 steps to 11 Z's, Russ's resistance, all that good stuff that a lot of you are really interested in and I have neglected to beguile you with. What does Russ's resistance look like in practice when your calendar is full of deadlines and you can't walk away from your desk? Okay, so Russ's resistance truly just means saying and setting that boundary of you are not a machine. You're not a machine. You were born. You have a life. You have things that make you happy. You have needs. You have to go to the bathroom. You have to sleep. Okay? So we're not a robot. We're not meant to be working all the time. And so when deadlines loom, I practice the micro 11Cs. If I cannot fully embody the Hobbit like I like to do in the summertime because I have that ability, I will do micro Hobbit time during the day. And this can look like 10 minutes of sitting on my porch with nothing, no phone, no book, literally just watching the birds and listening to the nature sounds. Or it could look like spending 30 minutes crafting a comfy, cozy dinner, maybe something with mashed potatoes. I've also learned using time cues have been a huge help for my personal practice. I try to guesstimate how long a task will take, set a timer, and then work until the time runs out. I normally try to chunk my tasks into 25 to 30 minute increments with a 5-minute squirrel break in between. To me, it's a lot about setting boundaries and making intentional time to do things that bring me joy. I have to remind myself often, productivity does not equal love and is not reflective of my worth. If you had a completely empty afternoon with no chores and no deadline, just pure rest, how would you spend those 4 hours? I think it would depend on the weather, to be honest. If it's really nice outside, you'll find me in the hammock watching the dogs play while reading fairy smut, because why not? If I have to be inside, I'm watching some YouTube commentary about TikTok drama while playing with crafts. Recently, I've been working with watercolor, trying to get in touch with my emotions. And then, since water is the element of emotion and how we emote with the world, I figured probably be cool to get in touch with some watercolor. An empty afternoon is honestly where I do all of my best creative thinking. I love when there's nothing in my brain. Can you give an example of your practice of self-trust? Can you give an example of a time your practice of self-trust led you to say no to a project or yes to a radical period of rest? Yeah, absolutely. I recently said no to a major collaboration that someone had asked me about, because my nervous system gave me a physical ping of dread. I checked in with my body and it started, my palms were sweaty, mom's spaghetti, the whole 9 yards. I knew my body was saying, no way, Jose, I just can't do it. And in the past, I would have pushed through that, but because I'm learning to trust my body's signals, I'm learning to understand my intuitive hits of when something is too much and when I need to say no. It's helping me be the best hag I can be. and learning how to say no and trusting that that no is absolutely what I mean when I say it. If you were hosting a food celebration dinner for Bilbo Baggins, what is one Indiana-grown dish you would serve? For Bilbo. I mean, I could always make him a fried pork tenderloin, I guess, but that's not my favorite. My favorite Indiana dish has to be homemade chicken noodle soup ladled over buttery mashed potatoes. It is uniquely Indiana, deeply earthy, and feels like a hug in a bowl. My husband makes homemade noodles for me often. I typically request them when I'm feeling pretty bad or having a bad day. It is the ultimate comfy food. We don't normally ladle it over mashed potatoes because honestly, I do respect my body and my health, and too much of that is just too much. But on special occasions, we do put some mashed potatoes in there. How do you use nervous system literacy to physically signal to your body that you are switching from business mode to apothecary mode? I do many rituals. I do many rituals when I come home from school. I have many rituals when I transition to the garden. This could be because I'm absolutely neurodivergent and rituals make my head feel better, but it also helps me with that transition. Normally before working on any formulations, I shower, I change into comfortable loose-flowing pants, and then I throw on Celtic Woman Radio from Pandora because it's a playlist that I have been curating since I was 17. It slaps. I love transition triggers. I love anything that helps me snap my brain into something new. Lately, I have been using scent a lot. So I have candles that I'm purchasing from a local candle person. Oh gosh, I have forgotten their name. I will link it in the description below. I love them. They're great. But I've been using their shadow work candle, and then there's an herbalist candle that I use quite often when I'm working in the apothecary. When the nervous system is completely fried, what is the very first cozy ritual you return to? Okay, so when I'm completely fried, there is only one recipe for getting myself back on track, and that is to embody the couch potato archetype. This is a whole day dedicated to being horizontal. I don't really sit still very often, nor do I watch a lot of movies or TV. I do have YouTube playing in the background often to give me that coffee house stimulation I need when I'm working on big projects, but to sit down and consume a movie, it rarely happens. So when I do have my horizontal days, I load up my Amazon Prime to all the movies I've missed in the last 6 months, and then I binge them. There are breaks for snacks and puppy snuggles, and of course, this day is dedicated to everything that could be involved with couch potato. All right, so finally we're at the star. This is where the lights keep me tethered. What does the air in Underwood, Indiana smell like right at the moment the sun goes down in mid-July? Definitely fireworks. Rednecks love some fireworks. Doesn't matter what time of year it is, but definitely mid-July, there will be a ton of fireworks. And not just like the little tiny ones either. I'm talking like full-blown booming. It also smells like fresh cut hay, burning wood and communal fire pits, and lots of girls cooking dinner because it's too hot to cook inside. Do you have any specific sensory triggers, a scent, a record, or a type of paper to anchor your creative sessions? So I did just talk about the candles that I use, the herbalist and the shadowroot candles that are my favorite right now. But outside of that, it really just depends on what I'm working with, and my triggers shift constantly. Right now, I'm a big fan of drafting my thoughts on paper while sitting in my hammock under Seamus the Willow. Sometimes I have dark Appalachian folk music or traditional bluegrass music playing in the background to stimulate creative flow. A lot of my inspiration or triggers for my creative sessions revolve around genealogical research, which isn't super... It's not sexy, you know what I mean? And right now I'm researching my paternal family line who settled in Augusta, Kentucky, the German Irish immigrants that I've been talking about quite a lot on my Substack. They're the prime That's the family that I'm looking at to draft Lunathire's Heir, part of my Shadowroot trilogy. Outside of bluegrass, is there a specific sound in nature, like a certain bird call or wind in the trees, that make you feel at home? I love coming home to the sound of Bill the Blue Jay. And since we're sitting outside, I'm honestly surprised that he hasn't come out to say hi yet. Last year, I noticed a young blue jay male eyeing our cat food and spending more and more time near the porch. Over the year, we created a sort of bond where he comes by every morning and every evening looking for cat food and sharing space with me. I can even pick out his vocalizations now. It's very cool. What is one botanical or folklore book on your nightstand that you return to every single year? The Modern Herbal by Mrs. Grieve, or Maud Grieve. She was an herbalist scholar researching folklore and medicinal values of plants during World War I and World War II. She would look at the plant and compile them into a narrative history of the plant itself. And honestly, I'm greatly inspired by her work. I love her a lot. I want to be her. What does your actual weekly maintenance schedule look like for the apothecary garden? How much of it is rest and how much of it is labor? Honestly, it's about 30% labor, which is weeding, hauling water if I have to, and harvesting, and 70% of observational rest. I can't be a good herbalist if I'm always working. I have to spend time just being with my plants. They tend to be chattier when I intentionally walked into the garden just to say hi anyway. What books have a permanent space on your bookshelf? What do you love to read? Obviously, the Lord of the Rings trilogy and The Hobbit lives forever on my bookshelf and in my brain. Other titles I consume regularly and love are the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. Her Throne of Glass series honestly got me out of a reading slump. I was reading a lot of sciencey books and books for a college course I was taking. And so I wasn't reading a lot of fiction at the time, and I felt just really burnt out and nothing really got me going. Lord of the Rings, obviously I could read that on repeat all the time, but I needed something else that was going to give me the same hit, kind of like Tolkien did. And I mean, she did it. Sarah J. Maas did it. There's a reason why she's famous right now. And I'm not saying that some of her other books are the best or my favorite, but there was something about Aelin's story in this series. It just pulled me. It brought me back to life, to be honest. There were parts of the story that I resonated with so much that it brought me back to life. It gave me the will, I guess, to carry on reading, which is crazy to say, but it did. A trilogy that I recently discovered and fell in love with and will always be on my bookshelf is the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden. Oh my god, I loved the series. I love the folkloric vibes of it. I love that it is the story of the witch and all of the Russian folklore hits that I was getting from it. I don't really know a lot about Russian folklore. I probably should. I'm not very well versed in German folklore either. I have focused primarily on Celtic, like Scots-Irish type situations and even Welsh. And so diving into the Russian folklore of this story and falling in love with the characters was just amazing. And I love that the author herself put some historical context in it. Obviously, it was stylized and she took some liberties with it. But for the most part, she added some really cool historical value to the backstory, which I loved. I love the weaving of historical things that happen in history and then adding it to like a fiction element. Okay, so the Plated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy. Oh my gosh, that was another one. Clearly, I love books where there is just a badass female main character. She has gone through some shit. She learns about herself, and she, at the end, stays true to her beliefs, and she carves out her own sovereignty. These are definitely themes that will be part of Lunathire's Heir. Yeah, I'm here for it. I am a whore for these stories. Okay, so another book series or like not a trilogy, no, a 2 books, a duology. You know what? It's fine. We're at the end of the podcast. I can mess up now. But is the Star Mother and Star Father by Charlie Holmberg. It is a telling of celestial beings who, like, there's the sun, there's the moon, and then there's the Star Mother. It's fascinating bit of new-ish folklore. Definitely recommend. It was very good. I also have Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon on my bookshelf, as well as some other things involving fairy tale smut, because listen, a girl's gotta have some fun reads every once in a while, and we know what's in those books. But I will say some of them have given me some really funny ideas, and I love a good laugh. Ice Planet Barbarians made me giggle all the way through it. I was so excited to tell people about it. So it's worth it to stay on my shelf. Another book series that I have kept on my shelf, this is probably the oldest book series sitting on my shelf right now outside of the Lord of the Rings, and that is the Tales of the Kingdom by Cynthia Voigt. I read these in middle school, and I still remember the characters. I remember their travels. I remember, like, I am rereading right now Jackaroo, which I guess the publishing house rebranded it, and so they all have different names now. But the first book was called Jackaroo, and I am kind of like skimming through it right now as I'm reading through school. It's the end of the year, so I kind of need a little bit of a brain break. And I'm just remembering these stories. They were amazing, and they truly influenced a lot of my writing. I didn't actually realize how much Cynthia Voigt had inspired my writing, but she definitely has. And so I'm looking forward to getting back into those books. I haven't read these in like over a decade. Getting back into these books and just seeing, what I remember, if I truly remember everything. Okay. I have a bunch of other books on my shelf. If you would like to know just in more detail, or would like a picture of my bookshelf to see what kind of books I have on there right now, I'm happy to do that for you. Just let me know. I have a lot of different books. I tend to stay in the fantasy genre, the historical fantasy genre. And then I have a lot of like shamanic training books. I have herbal books. I have folklore books. I have reference books. All of those things just to help me do my work. All right, so what music do I listen to? I'm just going to give you, it's a hodgepodge of things. I've already revealed my Celtic Woman Radio on Pandora playlist that I've been curating since I was 17, but I'm just going to tell you what my top artists and top tracks of the month were on Spotify. So the first one was Aurora, and then we followed in with First Aid Kit, Amigo the Devil. I freaking love Amigo the Devil. He's unhinged, and I am here for it. Daughter, and then, of course, Hosier. Top tracks this month that I listened to was Running with the Wolves by Aurora, The Moon Will Sing by the Crane Wives, Built on Bones by Emily Scott Robinson. Built on Bones might be the song for Lunathire's Heir. I haven't decided yet, but I've listened to it about 100 times, and I think that might be the song for Lunathire's Heir. And then Medicine by Daughter. I love the song by Medicine by Daughter. And then we're at our last question. These have been really fun. Thank you guys for submitting these. I can't believe it's been 40 minutes of me just literally blabbering on. I do love cats. We have 2 barn cats. We have Gisela and we have Nesta. And they're outside cats because my husband is allergic to cats and we cannot have them inside the house. However, Gisela comes into the basement during the winter time. So she's a half inside cat, half outside cat in the winter time. And then Nesta they don't get along. And so I don't trust them to snuggle up together in the winter time. And then Nesta has a nice little setup in the garage where it's nice and insulated during the winter time. They are babyface killers, professional unalivers, and 10 out of 10 mousers. I appreciate them so much. But yeah, so right now on our farm, we have 3 dogs. We have 2 cats, 2 goats, and then a number of chickens and 1 duck. I did purchase some chicken eggs from a student yesterday. She's supposed to be delivering them to me tomorrow. And then I also put in a request for another student to bring me Muscovy duck eggs. So I would really like Margot the duck, the Muscovy duck, to have her own chicks this year. We don't have any boy ducks. Mallards? No, that's a different one. I don't know. We don't have any boy ducks, so she can't have fertilized eggs, but she is amazing at hatching our chicken eggs, which is actually kind of funny. But then at the end, hey, you! We've reached the end of our podcast because the dogs are now eating my seeds. Great time. Okay. Hey, thank you for letting me deviate today. I needed this. I truly needed this. This was exactly the rest that I needed. I'll be back to our scheduled programming next episode where we'll be talking about the fossils, digging into the fossils and the folklore of the Ohio Valley limestone. And goodness, I'm losing my voice too. Until then, go find a weed you admire, drink your tea from a heavy mug, and remember the medicine you need is usually growing right where you feel most crushed. I appreciate you guys for being here. You can connect with me on Substack through Hag Under the Wood, or Facebook and Instagram as Elder Creek Apothecary. You can find all of this information on my website at www.eldercreekapothecary.com. And if you would like to send me an email, if you don't have Substack and would like to send me just a regular old email, you can email me at eldercreekapothecary@gmail.com. Thank you again, guys, for listening. I really appreciate you all being here. This has been really fun, and I will see you next time. Bye!